Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to present a work that is joint effort from people from the Technical University of Crete, where I come from. From the Applied Mathematics and Computers Laboratory, and also with my colleague Ioannis Nikolos from the Technical University of Crete, and people from Opti4 company and Zeta and Co, which we work together in this project. So, to go down. Okay, let's start with a little bit of the motivation. As the title says, we want to reconstruct hulls of ships based on their 2D drawings. 2D drawings are available, and most ship drawings are in 2D. Even nowadays, people are drawing ship, let's say, sketches based on 2D drawings. The problem is that maybe you want to reconstruct the hull in 3 dimensions, and this is very intensive, and it requires usually to have a combination of softwares to do that. So in this work, we're going to present computational methodology and software tools that we have developed. I will focus on the computational methodology and just give an overview of the resulted software to transform 2D technical drawings to equivalent 3D parametric curves like B-splines and NURBS. To give you an idea what is the drawing, how it looks like, you see that it's quite detailed, quite complicated, and has many artifacts that we don't need if we want to reconstruct from 2D to 3D. For example, these artifacts can be letters, can be numbers, can be the grid behind these dashed lines. We want to get rid of these to be able to get parametric curves. And I will start by saying that we want basically unrecognized data like the one I showed you in the picture before, which is like basically a point of clouds. So we'll be able to scan the image, and then from that to be able to produce suitable geometric processing from these unrecognized data points and make its parametric representation. And this is highly demanding from the ship industry because they want to make changes in their ships, they want to alter them, they want to maintain them, and so on. So the target here in this methodology is to have a semi-automatic or automatic identification of lines from scanned 2D technical drawings. The result, it is vector data that can be used for the 3D reconstruction. So I will describe briefly the methodology. The first part is quite easy, quite straightforward. We start by a scanned picture, which we can, each pixel assigned to a grid, usually IJ grid. And at this point that each pixel is, we have the corresponding values of red, green, and blue, which might have. And we have, for high intensity, like black, we have intensity I and 1, sorry, and 0 for the black. So this is easy. It can be done with any software, and then you have a computational grid by say Ni times Nj with the total pixels. To give you an idea, we fit on the scanned image with its intensity, a computational grid, and each node of the computational grid is positioned at the center of each pixel. It is uniform, which makes life easier, and from this first initialization that we make, we can proceed easily to other things. Now we have found that it's necessary, because the quality of the images is not good, to start at the second step to apply several filterings that are available in the user at the end software. So these filters are well-known ones. We give the user the opportunity to play with these, like have color balance, Laplacian smoothing, brightness, grayscale, kernels that would make low and high pass filters for softening or sharpening the picture, and so on. So we have an available group or suite of filters that to apply to the original scanned image. Now, having performed this initial treatment to our picture, The next step is to have the possibility to identify clusters of points that we might erase from the picture, like the letters we saw, the dotted lines on the grid, and so on. So this clustering algorithm, I will not give you any details. It's very easy. We first cluster points by checking its neighborhood, and then all these clusters that they produced based on a threshold value used by the user, we can identify the different clusters. So we identify clusters of small number of points and a large number of points. Small number of points will be usually dust lines, for example, we saw on the grid in the first picture. So we swap the picture and the pixels actually in alternative directions, and with that we produce these clusters of pixels with dark color in white background. And I will show you a picture like a part of an actual scanned 2D SIP drawing. You see there are a lot of artifacts, and after performing a couple of filters and the clustering algorithm, the second step, after the filters of contrast and a sharp masking has been applied, the image has slightly altered, but now it's easy for us to perform the clustering algorithm, and whatever is in blue over here can be easily deleted by the user. Also, the remaining artifacts that we have, we can change the threshold of the clustering algorithm, and then we can read whatever noise, let's say, we have in our picture. A different example, which is shown here, is an original SIP hole drawing, and after performing, for example, binary contrast and Laplacian smoothing, and the clustering algorithm provides us the cluster of points. Keep in mind that this is cluster of points and not the actual lines that we're going to use. This is just the first step that helps, or a second step that helps us eliminate the artifacts that we have on the picture. Now, the most important part of this methodology is what we call automatic digitization of lines. After having performed these two steps, we base our algorithm and this is a novel concept for such work, on fluid dynamic principles. This is something we hadn't seen before, and we made use of the potential flow concept. Keep in mind that from the scanning of the image, we have our intensity, I, and from that we can compute the potential. So black pixels result in high potential, while the white ones will have a low potential. Then we apply Laplacian smoothing to balance things a bit on this potential field, and this replaces at each node of the pixel the mean value of the surrounding models. This procedure smooths the distribution of the potential and increases the width of each line that eventually we want to have with the grid points. Now, at the next step, we compute the vector field. This is weird for having a scanned image that you compute a vector field, but I will explain why. So this is easy. Since we have the potential, we can use simple finite difference methods to compute and approximate the corresponding derivatives. This is a classical partial derivative of x and y of the potential. And this is to give you an idea of, let's say we have two crossing lines. Crossing lines is a difficult task, and you might have many crossing lines as well. So you see the potential on the background contours, and you see the original velocity field. Now, from that, we compute a new vector, which is normal of the velocity field, which is normal to the previous one, because you have different vectors, and somehow you want to normalize that. And we want to get rid of that change of signs on the original velocity field that we have. Because it's a problem, we want to create streamlined-like motion. So the next step, which is important, is to calculate the curl of the velocity. Again, we use some simple finite differences, and you see that having calculated the curl, this results to be positive in the central region of its line and negative outside. This is very helpful because we can categorize and see where our points lie. And then, because we want to have a direction field of the new velocity, all the velocity lines to show in the same direction, we modify this velocity field using a simpler Laplacian smoothing, again, which balances the vector field. So in the end, we have a vector field that follows the lines that we have from the original 2D scanned image. And from that, because we want to distinguish when we have crossing lines or lines that they match each other, we calculate the acceleration field as well. Again, we calculate and compute the material derivative of this new velocity we calculated earlier, again, using values numerical approach, which is very elementary, but it's very efficient in our case. We don't seek accuracy, we seek direction of each line. So the acceleration field is computed to display the regions along each line where high curvature exists. Is then non-dimensionalized, and in straight line regions, acceleration is 0. And acceleration takes, and this is the important indication, high values in lines where they cross, because your drawing can be very complicated. Then we have the velocity and acceleration fields eliminated of the region where the curl is negative, because they're outside of the lines. And we take the non-zero values and we march along these values using a time integration scheme. So this is the numerical method. In essence, now we want to have an integrated software. I'll give you a hint at the end after some examples. The user can decide where to start and where to stop this scanning process of digitizing lines. So we have some directional points, a starting point and an ending point that the user can use. You can scan the image following this algorithm in the nominal or the inverted direction. And at the end, you end up with a cluster of points, not the original cluster of points, they are unique, and you can use them for reconstructed using splines, NURBS, Bezier curves, or whatever. So let's see a ship hull of a capsized bulk carrier. This is the bow lines in front of the ship. What is happening after the initial processing, the digitization of lines, you define these red starting points. The user can easily approximate by the cursor in the software, and then the algorithm searches along this direction. And you see that although you have lines that seems to be continuous, at the end version, the algorithm manages to find lines that are different to each other. For example, this part has two lines. This is a bigger line, and this is a smaller line. That should be identified. At the end, you have the points that you want to use for your reconstruction. Here you have like 12 or so lines, and each one, we know its coordinates and can be used like in a step function through a skinning process to reconstruct 3D image of your ship. Now, if we see the back of the ship, in this case, the user might think, okay, I can start from this point, and then here you can give one starting point for all these lines, and the algorithm, following the velocity field that we calculated, will manage to find the points. But in this case, we have done a search in the invert direction. Although we define these 2 points, the algorithm can perform this in the invert direction depending on how the user feels its drawing should look like. And this is the inverted image, but it's the same rotated. We have quite a few lines here. We can predict all the details that can be used. An important problem in ship drawings is that you have lines that coincide over here. And it's very difficult for existing algorithms to classify and digitize lines that looks the same while it's not. We assume that this is one line and the other is a different line, even if they coincide in this case. So the developed software basically is comprised of 4 parts. I'll just give you an idea. It's developed in C++. It has 4 main parts. Our presented work here is in the second part. We have created a user GUI, a user interface that consists of a model browser and whatever. You have all your buttons. You can perform whatever filtering and so on you want. The sketch recognition application is the one that I described to you. Then we have a 2D design where from the digitization of lines that we got proceeds with parametric expressions of the 2D curves in the 2D space. Additional geometry such as line conics are offered as an option. And then finally we have the final module, which is a 3D design application where from the 2D input can create 3D images through a skinning process, concluding the reconstruction of the ship hull geometry. So this is the general idea. Our work fits in this second step. This work is funded by a Greek European program called Competitiveness and Entrepreneurism and Innovation, and it has reached its end just last week. Thank you very much. Any questions?